The Toronto Blue Jays are heading into spring training with one of the most competitive roster battles we've seen in recent years, and it's all happening in the outfield. When you look at the depth chart right now, there are legitimate major league players who are going to be fighting tooth and nail for playing time, and not everyone is going to be happy with how things shake out. We're talking about Nathan Lukes, Miles Straw, Davis Schneider, Jonathan Clase, and Addison Barger all competing for limited opportunities. Most of these guys are probably looking at bench roles unless injuries create openings, which is just the reality of having this much talent on one roster. But there's one name in this mix that could absolutely shake things up and force the coaching staff to make some difficult decisions, and that's Joey Loperfido. If you've been paying attention to this roster construction, you know that certain players have very defined roles carved out for them already. Davis Schneider, for instance, is primarily going to see action as a platoon player against left-handed pitching, especially with Anthony Santander healthy and occupying right field. Miles Straw brings elite defensive skills and base-running speed, making him the perfect late-game substitution when you need to protect a lead or manufacture a run. Nathan Lukes had an absolutely phenomenal 2025 campaign and could challenge Straw for some of those defensive replacement opportunities. But here's where it gets interesting. If Lukes experiences any kind of regression, or if the team decides they need more offensive punch off the bench, Joey Loperfido becomes a fascinating option who could force his way into significant playing time. Make sure you drop a like on this video if you're excited to see how this outfield battle plays out in Dunedin, because it's going to be must-watch stuff. Now let's talk about what Loperfido actually did when he got his chance last season, because the numbers are genuinely impressive even though we're working with a relatively small sample size. In 41 games with the Blue Jays, this guy absolutely raked to the tune of a .333 batting average with a .379 on-base percentage and a .500 slugging percentage. That's an .879 OPS, folks, which is elite production from any outfielder in baseball. He smashed 4 home runs and posted a 140 weighted runs created plus, meaning he was 40% better than the average hitter in the league. Those aren't fluky numbers from a guy getting lucky for a week or two. That's sustained excellence over a couple months of action. What really stands out when you dig into Loperfido's performance is that he didn't have any glaring weaknesses at the plate. Some left-handed hitters struggle against southpaw pitching and become easy platoon candidates, but not this guy. He hit .329 against right-handed pitchers, which is solid, but then he actually elevated his game against lefties, hitting an absurd .350 against them. That's huge because it means he's not limited to facing only one type of pitcher. He can handle anyone the opposition throws at him. When the Blue Jays gave him opportunities, he didn't just take advantage. He absolutely seized them and proved he belongs at this level. Comment below if you think Loperfido should be getting more playing time this season, because I want to know where the fanbase stands on this. The timing of all this is crucial too, because both Dalton Varsho and George Springer are entering the final years of their contracts. That means come 2027, there could be some significant holes in the outfield that need filling. The front office needs to be thinking ahead and identifying internal candidates who could step into larger roles, and Loperfido checks every box you'd want in a potential everyday player. He's not just a bat-only guy either. His defensive metrics are encouraging. His sprint speed ranks in the 81st percentile league-wide, which means he can cover ground and track down balls that slower outfielders might not reach. Between left field and right field, he's posting a 90% success rate on defensive plays, which suggests he's going to be a reliable defender who won't cost you runs in the field. The competition for roster spots is going to be absolutely fierce when pitchers and catchers report, and that's something every Blue Jays fan should be paying close attention to. This organization has a legitimate logjam of major league caliber outfielders right now, and somebody's going to end up disappointed when final roster decisions get made. Spring training performance matters enormously in these situations, and we've seen recent examples of how strong showings in Dunedin can completely change a player's trajectory. Just last year, Alan Roden put together the highest OPS of any Blue Jays hitter during spring training and earned himself a spot on the opening day roster because of that performance. He seized his opportunity when it mattered most, and that's exactly what Loperfido needs to do this spring. Here's the thing, though. Loperfido's spring training performance in 2024 was underwhelming, and it cost him. He managed just a .207 batting average with a .717 OPS, which simply wasn't good enough to force the organization's hand. The consequences were real too. He didn't get called up to the majors until early July, missing out on months of big league action and development time. That's the harsh reality of professional baseball at this level. If you don't produce when given the chance, there's always someone else ready to take your spot. The competition is relentless, and the margin for error is razor thin. Smash that like button if you remember how frustrating it was watching Loperfido struggle in Dunedin last spring. But here's what makes Loperfido's development story so compelling. He didn't just accept his struggles and hope things would get better on their own. Since joining the Blue Jays at the 2024 trade deadline, he's made significant mechanical adjustments to his swing, working closely with the coaching staff to identify and fix issues. The most notable change has been incorporating a shorter stride into his approach at the plate. This might sound like a minor technical detail, but it's actually fundamental to his success. That shorter stride allows him to get to the baseball quicker, meaning he has more time to recognize pitches and make solid contact. The results speak for themselves. Once he implemented these changes, his offensive production took off. When you watch Loperfido in the batter's box now, you can see the difference in his setup and approach. There's an athletic quality to his presence that wasn't always there before, and his swing from the left side is smooth and repeatable. That consistency is critical because baseball is a game of repetition and adjustment. Pitchers are constantly trying to expose weaknesses, and if your swing has too many moving parts or isn't mechanically sound, you're going to get exploited at the highest level. Loperfido has simplified his approach, and that's allowing his natural talent to shine through. The fact that he was able to sustain his excellent performance over those 41 games suggests this isn't just a hot streak. It's genuine improvement that should carry forward into 2026. Drop a comment below telling me what you think Loperfido's ceiling is as a player, because I'm genuinely curious what the fans believe he can become. The organizational aspect of this situation adds another layer of urgency to Loperfido's development timeline. Like many of the other outfielders currently on the 40-man roster, he has exactly one option remaining. For those who might not be familiar with how options work in baseball, this essentially means the Blue Jays can send him to the minor leagues one more time without exposing him to waivers. Once that final option is exhausted, if they want to remove him from the major league roster, other teams would have the opportunity to claim him. That makes 2026 absolutely crucial for his development and his future with the organization. He needs to prove he belongs at the big league level permanently, or risk losing his opportunity with Toronto altogether. We've seen this exact scenario play out successfully before with current Blue Jays players, and Addison Barger is the perfect example. Last season, Barger started the year at AAA Buffalo, which is typically where players go when they're close to major league ready but need a bit more seasoning. He got called up in mid-April, and once he arrived in Toronto, he never looked back. He established himself as a legitimate contributor and proved he belonged on the big league roster. That's the blueprint for what Loperfido could potentially accomplish this season if everything breaks right for him. The path is there, and the opportunity exists. The Blue Jays have shown they're willing to give young players chances when they earn them, and the outfield situation is fluid enough that strong performance could create playing time where it didn't exist before. Loperfido isn't going to be handed anything. He's going to have to take it by force through excellent play both in spring training and once the regular season begins. But based on what we saw from him in that 41-game sample last year, he has the tools and ability to do exactly that. His combination of hitting ability against both left-handed and right-handed pitching, defensive capability, and athleticism makes him an intriguing piece that could fit into multiple roles depending on what the team needs on any given day. Think about how valuable that versatility is from a roster construction standpoint. The Blue Jays have built a lineup that's already potent and capable of scoring runs in bunches. Adding another reliable bat who can contribute consistently would only make them more dangerous, especially in those late-game situations where depth gets tested. Playoff teams need players who can step up when regulars need rest or when matchups dictate certain substitutions. Loperfido has shown he can handle those moments, and that makes him increasingly valuable as the season progresses and the games become more meaningful. If you're enjoying this breakdown of the outfield situation, make sure you're subscribed to Jays Central so you don't miss any updates as we get closer to spring training. The reality is that 2026 represents a critical juncture not just for Lopperfido individually, but for the entire outfield depth chart. Decisions made this spring will have ripple effects throughout the season and potentially into future years. If Lopperfido can build on his 2025 success and show that it wasn't a small sample size fluke, he could establish himself as a core piece of this roster moving forward. If he struggles or fails to separate himself from the competition, it could mean a return to the minors and an uncertain future with the organization. The Blue Jays are in a win-now window, and they need contributions from everyone on the roster if they're going to achieve their championship aspirations. That means players like Lopperfido can't just be depth pieces waiting around for their opportunity. They need to be ready to produce immediately when called upon. The organization has invested in building a competitive roster through free agency and trades, and now they need the young players to step up and complement those veterans. Lopperfido represents exactly the type of cost-controlled talent that can make a real difference if he continues developing at his current trajectory. As we head into spring training, keep your eyes on this outfield battle because it's going to tell us a lot about the depth and flexibility of this roster. Joey Lopperfido is one of the most intriguing players to watch, and his performance over the next few months could determine whether he becomes a regular contributor or remains on the organizational periphery. Based on what we've seen so far, smart money is on him taking another step forward and forcing his way into a more prominent role. Let me know in the comments what you think Lopperfido needs to do to secure an everyday spot in the lineup, and don't forget to hit that like button if you want to see him succeed. Stay tuned to Jays Central for all the latest news and analysis as this Blue Jays roster continues taking shape heading into what promises to be an exciting season.